Hello and welcome. My name is Kubeir. Welcome to the channel. I am a CICC licensed immigration consultant. Express entry draws, which obviously by now all of us know, are expected to resume in the month of July, as stated by the Canadian Immigration Minister, Sean Fraser. But the reason for today's episode is to discuss what has been mentioned about these oncoming draws. We can speculate in a better manner because there is some indication of how these draws may occur, and therefore it gives a lot of you out there who are absolutely anxious as to what's going to happen. You may have certain direction that you wish to go for, you may want to go forward with. So this is internal memo that was obtained through the access to information and privacy. This was basically to seek a decision of an extension for pause of the draws from April 1 to June 30, which again is an indicative that there is a possibility of the draws being resumed in July. We already know that that is going to happen because Sean Fraser has come out and said it in several forums and platforms. So this is basically the summary and the background. I will post the link for this ATIP notes in the video description at a later stage, so you can at your own free time read through this and understand what it is. Obviously, there is a bit of a background as to why were the draws paused, and it basically says the reason for pausing these draws was obviously to clear the backlogs that have been created. And as we move forward, they're now talking about consideration. And here is the first paragraph. It says that despite the significant progress in the inventory reduction, so basically prodded around and cleared some of the inventory, and they are still not at a point where the backlogs are such that they could start accepting new applications and still meet the 6 months service standard, and therefore they would want to avoid the draws until the end of June 2022. So a lot of us were expecting that the draws would resume earlier than July, and but obviously we did not know what exactly is happening on the back end with IRCC. So this is something which we now learn and understand, that obviously IRCC was not happy with the amount of backlogs that were cleared, and they wanted more to be cleared in order to sort of conduct these draws. In order to ensure that there is enough inventory to meet the 2023 levels, it is projected that the department would need to begin issuing federal high-skilled invitations sometimes between July and September. The recommended option is to pause invitations until June 30th and really reassess the timing for start of FHS invitations based on developing situations. This also talks about the fact that they already have enough people in the pool to meet the targets for this year. So already in the existing FHS federal high skilled category pool that is in the backlog, and the number of people that they have been clearing so far this year, they already have enough people to meet this year's target. But now going forward, to meet the 2023 target, which is roughly 75,000 people, they obviously need to start issuing the invitations so that they can start meeting the next year's target as well. Obviously, forward planning, right? Obviously, a lot of the information on these notes, as you can see, this is all blank, which basically means all this information has been redacted. So we can never really get to the meat of the matter, because a lot of the good stuff they will always hide away. In their express entry draws, when they resume, they're expecting to invite the same or rather a similar number of draw sizes as per the pre-pandemic levels. They have blacked out. This area has been redacted. Do not know what number they had in mind. Therefore, we can only estimate what they would be looking at. So the remaining 2022 final decisions from March to December, they are looking to do 55,000, which is quite obvious. That is the number of applications that they would have, or rather the number of people who would still be in the backlog at that point of time. They are obviously going to be reducing the processing times to 6 months. This number, which we were most interested in, that number has been hidden. But from here on, now that we understand that they would be looking at pre-pandemic levels as the invitation draw size, this is the total number of backlogs as of 29th of April 2022. The Canadian experience class has dropped down to 7,522 people. The federal skilled workers have dropped down to 32,883 people. So obviously there has been a reasonable amount of applications being cleared. The PNPs are also getting cleared with a good number as well. So are other categories. But obviously the concern remains that 530,000 applications are still in the backlog at this point of time. Same thing is the case with the temporary residence applications, 132,000 with the study permits, extensions 36,000, TRVs, which is visit visas, at 621,000, and total of 1.2 million temporary residence visa applications. Let me shut this down so I can then share with you. So as a lot of you have also been contemplating as to would it be express in the express entry draw, would it be a CEC specific or a FSW specific draw? So for that, I have a small clip which will give you from horse's mouth that he himself is saying that the express entry draws will resume for CEC and FSW.
There are certain policies that I think we need to be looking at. The flexibility I described in the express entry system is one such example. Extension for people who are already here on postgraduate work permits, so they don't need to necessarily leave the country and reapply, is another opportunity that we can be looking at. The resumption of express entry draws in July for federal skilled workers and Canadian experience class is the kind of thing that's going to help make a difference in the policies that we need to adopt. But the main one is our levels plan. If we limit the number of people who are going to come into Canada, that inventory of people who are seeking to come will have to wait longer.
Well, I'm sorry for that pause, but the reason why I paused that was to sort of actually, I'm sorry with the audio. The audio is not the best one on this particular clip, but this is where exactly has what he has said.
Express entry draws in July for federal skilled workers and Canadian experience class is.
So that was that for the federal skilled worker and the Canadian experience class, that the draws will resume for both the categories. So at least that one is also out of the play. So now we know that the express entry draws will resume for both the Canadian experience class and the federal skilled workers. But let's hop on very quickly now to the pool size and how is that looking like. Okay, now let me just get this out of here. This was the express entry pool on the 24th of May. And here you have 635 between 601 and 1200. Between 501 and 600, you have 7,193. If I jump to this is your earlier draws, the draws that happened pre-pandemic. So if I was to say pre-pandemic was here, this is where the actual draws were happening, right? No program specified draws. These were the good old happy days, if you want to call them. And here, if you see the average number of draws that were being issued, or rather the invitations that were being issued, was between 3,200 to about 4,000-ish, 4,500. There was one draw there. But between 3,200 to 3,900 has been the average draw size. Now, if the internal memo, which I just shared with you, if that is indicating that the oncoming draws, or the once the draws resume, they will go back to issuing invitations at the pre-pandemic level. So that now the expectations based on which we can have a better speculative understanding that the draw size would be in the range of 3,200 to 3,900, which basically means, if I hop back into the pool here, 501 to 600, you have 7,193. That is the number of people that you have in the pool, with 7,193. And if the draw size is going to be between 3,200 to 3,900, that basically would mean that you're looking at least 2 draws to occur so that the profiles upwards of 500 can get cleared, which means the first 2 draws, which basically will take the July out of the picture. So if we are to anticipate that IRCC will conduct draws in the regular manner, which is bi-weekly, 1 draw after every 2 weeks, means the month of July is gone for the scores of 500 plus. Come August, you can then start looking at scores which are below 500, and therefore in this you would have 491 to 500. Now you have 3,749. With 3,749, and again with the assumptions that the pre-pandemic levels is between 3,200 to 3,900, it basically means another 1 or 1.5 draw. Basically, when I'm saying 1.5 draw, what I'm trying to say is that some people from the 490s would go into the 4th draw, which would again be towards the end of August. Again, hoping and praying that they continue with regular draws. And by the time it hits 480s, you are already into the 4th and the 5th draw. And again, they have 7,237 profiles in 481 level. So you're already looking at the 5th or possibly the 6th draw, which is where the scores come to 480 and then start going below. So by the time you're looking at the sixth draw, you are already into what's happening now. July is gone, August is gone, September is gone. You're approaching October. October is when we are anticipating that the scores would start looking in the under 480 level. Also, please keep in mind that express entry pool is dynamic, which basically means people keep joining the pool, people keep improving their scores, people keep dropping from the pool, etc., etc. Over the last few years, there have been hundreds and thousands of international students who have come to Canada, a lot of them with the purpose of becoming permanent residents, and therefore they would be getting their points added. I mean, as it is just now, very, very recently, the last semester, the winter semester got over. A lot of people would be graduating. They would have completed their studies. So these people would obviously, once they get their completion letter, would be able to claim points for their education. Similarly, a lot of people who completed their studies last year by now would be completing their 1 year of work experience. They will all be jumping in the pool. They will all be entering the pool. So the scores of 481 and above, that number is very dynamic. Depending on how many people are entering the pool, these numbers would keep fluctuating. Depends on how many people enter at that point of time. But we've already established by the time you are now looking at the sixth draw, you probably are entering below the 480 score, which is somewhere in the month of October. But this is where it starts getting tricky. 16,027 people in the range of 471 and 480. This is where it will become, very difficult to speculate as to what number the draws and how quickly the draws will reduce. The difference between 3,200 invitations per draw and 3,900 invitations per draw is 700. That 700 can make or break a lot of applications. And I mean, again, there are a lot of people whose express entry profiles are expiring, whose IELTS are expiring, and those situations are going to create a lot of pressure. Suggestion would be, if you're in 470s, if you're in low 470s, then if you can add or rather improve your IELTS scores, if that is a possibility, even by 3 points, even by 6 points, then you should look at doing that. And that way you will be able to probably secure an ITAs sooner than later. Again, once it comes into the below 480 level, so once it comes in the range of 470s, the high 470s, from there on, the drop in ITAs, the drop in score is going to be very slow. From here, I mean, until now, dropping below 500 took 2 draws, dropping below 490 would take another 2 draws. These jumps are quite big. So 10 points jump, it is happening over a period of draws, primarily because of the number of invitations being issued and the number of people who are entering the pool at that point of time. But as I said, and I'm repeating it again, when it comes to the below 480 level, it's going to be very, very slow drop from there on. Sometimes it could even be a 1 point drop, because there is no way to ascertain, there is no way to establish how many people are there in the express entry pool at each single point level. And therefore, that is the speculation which nobody can sort of correctly draw out and make. But it's at least an understanding of what you can anticipate, especially for the people who are at the 480s level, especially for the people who are at the high 470s level. I know there are a lot of you out there who are from the CEC, Canadian Experience class, who are even at 460s, 450s, and who are expecting a draw to happen so that they would get an invitation. It is highly possible. Now, I'm not saying there will be no CEC specific draws at all. There is a very high possibility that IRCC, after conducting a few all program draws, goes back and conducts some CEC specific draws. That is a possibility. But at this point of time, with the amount of pressure that is there on IRCC, with the amount of political pressure, with the amount of general pressure that is there within the pool, and the fact that federal skilled worker draws did not happen since last year, December 2020, last year, December 2020, there is an inventory buildup of hundreds and thousands of people, and they would like to see a lot of that being cleared. So this is the reason why I want to do this quick, brief video, so that I can give you my opinion, my speculation of what the draws are looking like. Primarily now, because we understand what the draw size is anticipated. Because earlier we thought maybe the draw size would be as large as what IRCC was doing during the COVID, when they were doing the CEC kind of draws. 4,500, 5,000, those kind of draws. But it looks like if they will go back to the pre-pandemic draw sizes, then the numbers are going to look like this. And if we are, I'm just going to quickly look at how it might look like if we are going to conduct roughly. Yes, so basically on an average, I'm expecting 12 to 14 draws that would be conducted from July until December, approximately 12 to 14 draws. And if I take an average of about 3,500 invitations, then they would pretty much be issuing roughly 45,000, give or take few, obviously. That would be the number of invitations that they may be looking to issue in this year. That is how they would go about it. 45,000 is what I would anticipate. But again, you have to also keep in mind, a lot of people decline their ITAs. A lot of applications get rejected because of incomplete applications. We're not going to talk about refusal, but between the rejection of ITAs or declining of ITAs and the number of applications getting rejected at the R10 stage, that number is quite heavy and huge. It's about, at the last count when we did it 2 years back, it was at about 33%. I think now it has reduced because obviously there were no applications. The number of applications were not the same. So it was roughly at about 28%. But that is the number of people who would decline their ITAs or their applications get rejected at the R10 stage. All this data is available on the open source data shared by IRCC. So this is how it is looking at this point of time. Again, to summarize, and I'm sorry with the earlier sharing of the memo, I actually picked up the wrong file in which the one I had marked out in, that was not the file I picked up. But anyways, so you get the gist, and I will, as I said, share the ATIP notes on the description box so you can take a read of it yourself. So IRCC, through the release of this ATIP notes in their internal memo, have stated that they intend to resume the draws between July and September, but that was their initial, in the March, that was their proposal. But then we know from there on, Sean Fraser has already made the announcement that the draws will resume in July. So we can absolutely expect that the draws will resume in early July. That was the first thing. That was the first takeaway from that internal memo. Next one was that when the invitations will be issued, they will be issued at the pre-pandemic levels. And when they will start issuing the invitations after the month of July, these applications will be processed at the normal processing times of 6 months. That is obviously the major objective that IRCC had in the first place, to stop the draws in the first place. So therefore, these new applications that will be accepted, they will be processed within the 6 months processing time. So that would always be a welcome thing to happen, because the backlogs have been killing everybody. And also the fact that with the backlogs that we have shared with you, the information that I shared with you, the backlogs, they are clearing applications. There are only 7,000 profiles, 7,000 people in the Canadian experience class, and roughly 32,000 people remaining in the federal skilled worker class. We are in the month of June and July, also 2 months for them to clear out plenty of other people in the pool of the backlog. So basically, you're expecting maybe another 8 to 10,000 people getting cleared even before the draws are resumed, or when the draws get into full steam. Mind you, everybody who receives the draws, or rather who receives the invitation, they will not be submitting the application immediately, right? They will be taking their time to prepare the documents, prepare the applications, police clearances, medicals, etc. So by the time they actually will be submitting the applications, that would be probably by the month of August, September, because you will have 60 days on that. You have not taken into consideration the NOC-specific draws. You are absolutely right. I have not taken into consideration the NOC-specific draws. And the reason I have not taken that into consideration, because that is under Bill C-19. Bill C-19, for people who do not know, that is still under deliberation in the Parliament. At the moment, it is only in the House of Commons. The first reading of that Bill C-19 has been done. After that, the Parliamentary Committee on Citizenship and Immigration has already deliberated and also proposed some amendments and changes to it. Only after this, the second reading will happen, then the third reading will happen, then it will go to the then it will go to the Senate over there. Then it has to have first reading, second reading, third reading. Then the Parliament has to vote. Then it has to be approved, and then it will go for the royal assent. After that, it will then become part of the law, and after that, IRCC will be able to make some changes and then announce these changes. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. So probably end of this year, really very late end of this year or early next year. But Bill C-19 is going to happen. These changes, which are NOC-specific draws or category-specific draws, That would be a better way to go about it. It may not only be knock specific, it might be category specific, and the category could be any types of category. It could be knock related, could be language related, could be region related, could be any kind of category. And those category specific draws, I anticipate towards the very end of this year or early next year, which would be more likely. So at this point of time, the express entry draws, in my opinion, in my understanding, I think they would continue as normal as we were used to understanding what express entry draws would be. And at least for the next few months, July onwards, they would be at the pre-pandemic levels, as in the draw size, the number of invitations per draw. That is what the expectations is. So that's basically what I had to discuss with you today. I hope you got a gist of this whole pre-pandemic level numbers and the speculations in terms of the express entry draws. And this would then help you in putting yourself in a position where you can take the advantage when the draws will indeed resume. If you still do not have your express entry profile, make sure you have one. If your express entry profile is expiring before July, do not wait for it to expire. Make sure you withdraw it and create a new express entry profile. Yes, I know that a lot of people have been wondering about the Ontario tech draws and Ontario draws. Well, for you, you need to understand that today, 2nd of June, is the elections for Ontario, is it? With this, I am assuming that very soon Ontario will get back into action in terms of conducting the draws. Over the last week, they did conduct some draws which were employer job offer specific, but that for the information for the draws has not even been posted on the website, and the reason for that is because of the election, and also because the resources are quite tight. Their resources are being reassigned in different areas and locations. Therefore, even their nomination, the processing of the nomination had slowed down to almost a grinding halt. I think we just started receiving the nominations on Monday again after nearly 90 days. So as far as Ontario is concerned, after today's elections, I think give it a week and you will start seeing movement back with Ontario. I'm not saying that the draws will happen next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. This is pretty much it. Now, as far as people who are wondering about TEER, the new TEER, which is your training, education, experience, and responsibilities. TEER system will come into effect in November. It will not affect the draws. These are two separate things. The TEER system is separate. The Bill C-19 is separate. Bill C-19 was only proposed in the budget 2 years back. TEER system amendments happen once every 10 years. So the NOC system is always amended and changed once in 10 years, and then some minor changes made after every few years. So the last time it was majorly changed was in 2011, with minor changes coming into play in 2016. So the NOC that you use right now is 2016 NOC. Now you will be using NOC 2021, which is now the new TEER system. No relation to the Bill C-19, which is the category specific draw. As I said, the NOC had to change anyways, and the Bill C-19 is only now being proposed and being tabled, so it will take some time to come into effect. Yes, obviously with the new NOCs, people will have to go back and amend their NOCs in their express entry profile, but there are a lot of changes happening in express entry. So as and when they are announced, as and when there is much more clarity available, trust me, you will come back here and I will tell you all about it. Can you please elaborate how can we get information on the inventory on the IRCC website? IRCC does not publish their inventory. That is usually made available through the ATIP notes. So yeah, that is how basically you would get the inventory on different dates. CIC News publishes the regular inventories. My very good friend Stephen Murins, who's an immigration lawyer, he also on his Twitter account publishes the ATIP notes that have been obtained and will publish the inventory level. So you can always give it a look and see if they are of interest to you. Well, that's just about it from my side today. This was going to be a short one. Do come back and join us on Saturday for our weekly roundup, where we will talk much more about these things, again, obviously in much more details. Also, to let you know, Sunday, I am going to be hosting another immigration lawyer. Okay. I won't give you details at this point of time, but the subject for discussion is going to be the mandamus. Does it help you in your applications if you want to get a decision fast? What happens if you have a review required? What happens if there is a NOC concern? What happens if there is a document concern and you have been able to identify that in your GCMS notes? What do you do in such cases? And do you really need a lawyer? Do you really need a consultant? And if at all you're not able to figure out and you still get a refusal because you are not able to properly address it, then what are your options? All of this very meaty, very juicy discussion I'm going to have with a very good colleague and a friend who is also an immigration lawyer. That would be Sunday morning, 10:30. So that would be another cracker of an episode that I'm going to bring to you. So, and again, on that note, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, then I'm not sure what you're waiting for. The most credible channel on YouTube for Canadian immigration. That's this one. And that's this one. And obviously, if you are not with us on our Instagram, then that's also a fun place to be. Do follow us there, and it'll always be nice to see more people joining there. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll hope to see you soon again.